Yo, fam, what is good with you? Happy Monday. Hopefully, everybody had a safe and a blessed weekend. Um, should be a good show today. Should be a good show today. We're going to definitely get into our topic, gun control, facts over feelings. I think there's a lot a lot of information that I want to share with you guys. Definitely want to get your thoughts and perspectives, depending on how this goes. Maybe we get through this topic and we talk about some more things. But in the interim, thanks so much for joining us, Gina versus Gina. How you doing? What's good? Chuck Gardner, what's good with you? Salute. Ronald Woodman, salute. Mr. BS, salute. Happy Monday, fam. X Factor 14, salute. Go Mob Frat. Big Al, salute. STD is in the building. CK Kevin, my man. Hey, your package, the 2A in LA portion of your package should be going out it should be going out any day now. You should be receiving it any day now. So keep an eye out for it. Lonnie Nellen, salute. Welcome, fam. I'll give everybody else a little bit more time to join us. While we're doing that, a little bit of housekeeping. So you guys know we've got two more firearms giveaways for this year. We got the next one is going to be an AR-9 from my man Big Dre's company. And so I said, look, multiple ways to win. Way number one is if you are an existing member of the channel, you automatically get one entry into the giveaway. Way number two, if you go to my website, 2anla.com, 2 with the 2, no dashes, just 2anla.com, there is a section there where it says, do you want to enter the giveaway? Just enter in your name, email address, and your YouTube name if you don't want me to use your government, and input that in. Everybody who does that between now and September 30th, you automatically get an entry. So if you want two entries, be a member and register at the website, and you will get two entries into the giveaway. And Big Dre hit me up. He's excited about it. We're excited about it. Probably, if not the next live, the live after that, I'll bring Big Dre on so he can talk about it. We're probably going to do the giveaway sometime in October. Not sure exactly when, but probably sometime in October. But I will give you guys some notice on that. Once we get past September 30th, then we'll kind of go in, we'll lock in relative to that. And I will definitely be talking more about the firearm itself, and we'll be talking about other ways and opportunities that you have to win. My man Coy in the building, go Mob. Got a lot of frat up in the house. CK2, okay, good. You got your weapons collective stuff, fantastic. Like I said, you should be having your 2A NLA gear by the end of this week. I also know that Team Blacksmith said he was sending his out, so you should be getting that shortly as well. All right. So I'm trying to see any of a couple other housekeeping things, giveaways. So we got a couple giveaways tonight for everybody who wants to enter. We will be giving away this CV Life chest rig, and it basically goes around you and it goes on your chest like this. If you are somebody that walks a lot or hikes a lot or goes jogging and you want something to be able to uh, keep your wallet, your phone, your keys, your firearm, all that stuff, this is a nice little chest rig. The video for this will be coming out soon. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, will include a 2A NLA patch and a 2A NLA keychain. And the member giveaway for tonight is going to be another one of those Reptilla grips redone by Clutch. You can see it's camoed out. So if you got an AR-15 and you want to significantly upgrade your pistol grip game, yeah, your boy 2A in LA has you. That will also include a patch and a keychain as well. So we'll dive into that a little bit later on in the live. So stay tuned. All right, fam. Look, man, this one, she stay winning. She stays winning out here in these streets. Gina hasn't had to buy a gun since like the early 1900s. I don't even think it was legal for us to have guns the last time Gina had to buy a gun. So yeah, and there's a lot of giveaways going. My man Jeff from the Weapons Collective, he has a pistol class tonight, or I'm sure he would be coming through, but he's giving away a Race City Defense gun. Team Blacksmith, I think, is giving away another 2011, and of course, we're doing this AR-9 with Dre, and then I'm going to be giving away a 2011 for the end of the year. So look, man, a lot of opportunities for our camp to take home some free firearms. Hey, Gina, no hate here. No hate here. So look, let's get into the topic. And the topic tonight is gun control, facts over feelings. And I'm generally speaking, fam, I am a facts over feelings guy. I'm a Virgo. You can call it my nature or the way I was raised. But I am a kind of facts over feelings guy. But I try to be sensitive to everybody's feelings. So let me tell you how this came up. 3 of my very good friends, my fraternity brothers, like family to me, started a podcast. We all went to UCLA together. They started a podcast called 3 for the Founders. Now, most of their viewership is done on podcast platforms where people just listen and don't watch, but they do have a YouTube channel, and it's at 3 for the Founders. I will actually drop it down in the link. If you don't mind, definitely go subscribe to their channel, because I think they have quite a bit of interesting conversations. Howard J, my man, what's good with you? They have a lot of interesting conversations, and so and we don't always agree on things, and so none of them are gun guys, but I took out 2 of them to the range so that they could have their first experience shooting a firearm. So that was very interesting. I think that they enjoyed themselves. I think that was an experience. OG Tank, salute. And so then after that, they asked me to kind of get on their podcast. And I think that being that none of them are really gun guys, none of them are opposed to owning firearms, but they're educators. And so obviously, given the amount of school shootings that we've had in recent years, the uptick in that, it's a concern for them. I would say they're pro Second Amendment within reason. And, I like talking to smart people who think differently than I do. I feel like I can learn some things from them, maybe gain perspective that I didn't have before. And I feel like they can learn some things and get some perspective that maybe they don't hear because it doesn't fall into their algorithm or into their social circles or spaces. And so I thought the conversation was very, very interesting. I will definitely keep you guys updated and informed on when the episode will drop on their channel. We talked for a long time, so they might divide it up into 2 episodes, but definitely check out my guys, 3 for the founders. But anyway, we were talking about guns, gun culture, gun control. And fam, I try not to be political on this channel. Um, I try to keep it focused on gun control. I'm sorry, on firearms and firearms related topics because I find that politics can be so divisive, and it's not really what my channel was established to be about. But sometimes politics will touch on firearms, and when it does, I try to speak on that. And as you guys are aware, there's been a lot of stuff going on recently. Obviously, the assassination of Charlie Kirk in front of his wife and his children was tragic. And, you know, regardless of whether what your personal thoughts and opinions are on Charlie Kirk, I think we can all agree that that was unacceptable. Um, and even for those who are on the opposite side of the aisle for me politically, even those who are on the opposite side of me ideologically, um, I just don't wish death upon anyone. Um, and certainly don't wish something like that, uh, where they are murdered in front of their friends and family, in front of their wife and their children. I just thought that that was awful. That said, you know, neither the right nor the left missed the opportunity to politicize it. So almost immediately after that happened, people on the left who are pro gun control ran out and said, "We need. This is why we need more and more gun control." Snap at you. What's good, Snap? Salute. Happy Monday. And people on the right obviously push back as well. For me, not so much a left or right issue. Um, Everybody, I think, should be anti-murder. It's kind of how I look at it. But let's get into gun control itself. So, look, fam, I don't think, given my viewership, I don't think very many of you, if any, are probably pro gun control. But I'm going to ask you guys kind of a series of questions just to kind of check the temperature in the room. There are some people, when it comes to gun control, are absolutists, right? They don't believe the government should regulate any form of firearms, should have any form of firearm regulation. I'd like to get a sense, how many of you guys are for some gun control? And obviously, there's thousands and thousands of gun control laws on the books. Ronald Woodman, salute. Obviously, there are thousands and thousands of gun control laws on the books. But how many of you, and just say I am in the chat, if you are for background checks, put I am in the chat. I'd be curious to know. Okay. Stephen Barnes, salute. What's good, fam? Kelvin, salute. What's happening? Just a standard background check, OG Tank. Okay. So it seems, Derek Stalling, salute. So it seems like most of us are pro background check, which essentially means that we don't want people who have not been vetted to violent criminals and the like to have access to firearms. So that's cool. How many people in the chat are pro waiting periods? In other words, like in California, we have what's called a cooling off period, right? Where you have to wait 10 days before you can pick up a firearm. Some states, I think that's probably the longest period. Some dates, places are like 2 or 3. If you are for Jeff Fry, what's good? Hold on, let me capture that. I am for mental illness and felony charges. Fair enough. So if you are pro waiting periods, put I am in the chat. Not necessarily 10 days, but any kind of waiting period or cooling off period. If you're pro waiting period, let me know in the chat. My man, congrats. And absolutely, those are 2 winners. Those are 2 Grail guns. Those are the ones that stay in the collection no matter what. Double checks. Not a fan of waiting period, against waiting period. Some, nope. BTG, what's good? Background checks, waiting periods, etc., are all infringement. Beyond that, makes the state the arbitrator of social ills. I'm not good with that. Okay. Maybe for your first gun, but not after that, if it makes sense. Okay. Silverback, not a fan. So it seems like we're about 50-50 on that. Look, let me just say this. I am pro some gun control. If we want to do background checks to make sure that violent criminals, people who are who have holds or whatever the case may be, are not going into stores buying guns, I'm with that. I don't think that I think certain weapons should be banned. I'm not with my next door neighbor having a nuclear bomb. I'm not with that. I'm not with my neighbor having a tank that can go blow up stuff, right? Certain explosion devices, I'm not with that. So I think, yes, some regulation is probably a good thing. But I will say this, most of quote unquote common sense gun laws are already on the books. And I feel attempts to add additional gun laws are less about effectiveness and more about politics and games. What was interesting about my conversation with my guys, hey, Tatty Cops, salute. Tatty Cop says, no NFA. Fair enough. What was interesting about my conversation with my guys is because they talked about not so much effectiveness, but kind of the emotional aspect of it. And I wanted to kind of touch on that. We'll get into that a bit. David Lurch, salute. You haven't missed much, David. I just kind of was trying to get a sense of the people that were in here, who were kind of for background checks, who were kind of for waiting periods, and some of the more basic tenets of gun regulation. I think that most people were pro background checks. Some people were not with waiting days. I think one comment was maybe for your first gun, but after that, not so much. Again, I would agree. I don't understand. If the purpose of the waiting day is to have a cooling off period, if you already own a gun, then you don't need to cool off, right? You already have the gun. So to me, that seems like silly. But so that's all you miss. You not much at all. So my issue with politicians and mainstream media is that I don't think they are sincere. And I don't feel that they give people kind of the vital information that they need to be able to make an intelligent decision about gun control. I think people who are pro gun control leave out the fact that thousands of there are thousands of gun control laws already on the books, that background checks are already a requirement, that you can't just go into a gun store and buy a gun. Now, some people may argue that in some states, you do have the ability to buy a firearm private party without a background check. In California, you can't. In the state of California, if I wanted to buy a gun, let's say from Stephen Barnes, and Stephen Barnes lived in California, me and Stephen would have to meet at an FFL, do the paperwork and everything to transfer title to that. Some people feel like, oh, that's an infringement. In California, that's all I've ever known. And to be honest, I'm okay with that, just from the sense that if I sell a gun and somebody does something with that gun down the line somewhere, the first place the police are going to show up is at my doorstep. And so I would rather them know that I no longer possess the gun. But I understand why people wouldn't want that. And I'm okay with that as well. David Lurch. Most states have no waiting period. Yep. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot to that. Right. I think there should be ways that you can opt out. If you have a concealed carry permit, you should not have a waiting period. If you already own a firearm, if you already have firearms registered in your name, you should not have a waiting period. Tactical Tina, what's good, sis? And so what I tried, so let me see. These days are per FFL to transfer it if I sell my gun. Agreed. So I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with that. So let me say this. So my problem with what I started to say was, my problem with politicians and the media is that I don't think they provide any context when they're talking about gun laws. They make it seem as if there is no gun control laws on the books, like it's the wild, wild west out here. Like you could just go out and criminals can buy guns, and people who have restraining orders can buy guns, and all this stuff, right? And it's simply not true. I even think we have to get in. So let me ask this, and this is great because I'm talking to an audience that's obviously primary pro-gun. Let me put that up there. I'm talking to an audience. The problem is anti-gunners exploit everything until it's ridiculous. Agree. And so that's what I want to get in. Let me ask you a question. And this is going to be very interesting. How do I want to phrase this? I want to ask the chat, do you believe that gun violence is a problem in this country? Let me change that. Do you believe that gun violence is a major problem in this country? If you do, put I do in the chat. I'm very curious to see what you guys say. Joe Vaz, salute. What's good? I couldn't agree with you more. I couldn't agree with you more. In my opinion, most of the gun control that is being advocated today is about disarming law-abiding citizens and not disarming criminals. Taddy Cop says no, he doesn't believe it's a major problem. X Factor thinks it is. Tactical Tina thinks it is. Stephen Barnes thinks it is. David Lurch says no. Yes, because there are no many gun laws keeping them out of the hands of good people. I do dude, there's no such thing as anti-gun. We have to stop framing it that way. The issue is anti-you having guns too. Fair enough. I do. So a lot of you seem to think that gun violence is a major problem. So let's talk about that. Let's start there. Let's start there. And I think, and this is why I titled this episode kind of Facts Over Feelings. I know a lot of you probably agree with my stance on gun control, but I want to try to arm you with some facts, right? Because I think a lot of us don't have these things at our fingertips to pull from when we get pushback from people about gun control. So let me just give you some facts. There are 340 million people in this country. 340 million people approximately in the United States. Of that 340 million people, 3 million people pass away every year, no matter what. 3 million. Okay? Of that 3 million, about 45,000 are gun-related deaths. Let me say that one more time. 340 million people. I should also add that there are over 400 million guns in our country. So more guns than people. And of the 3 million deaths that we have annually in this country, gun deaths represent about 45,000. So that's why I asked the question, do you think we have a gun problem? A major gun problem? Like when I hear politicians in the media talk, they're like, gun violence is running rampant. It's a major epidemic. It's a national emergency. But when I think about it, 340 million people, 400 million guns, and 45,000 gun deaths per year. Now, of those, and I'm not belittling or slighting any loss of life. Any loss of life is tragic, 100%. But that's not what I'm talking about now. What I'm really trying to get to is how big a problem is this? I think we can all say it's a problem, but how big a problem is it, right? And so 400 million guns, 340 million people, 3 million people die in our country every single year. Of that, only 45,000 are gun-related deaths. Now, of that 45,000, 60% is suicide. So these are not suicide, while also tragic, is not a public safety issue, right? So, but again, when you hear the media talk about this and pro-gun control activists talking about this, they don't give you these stats that provide you some context. All they do is say things like there's 45,000 people who die from gun violence every year. Okay, but 45,000 out of how many, right, is the question. Are there other things besides guns that should have our attention? I guess is the point that I'm trying to drive home. So out of the 45,000 or so gun deaths every year, 60% are suicides. And so you're left with about 15 to 18,000 of actual homicides that are gun related that take place in our society every year. And so way more suicides than homicides, right? So hearing that, all you people who said, I do, when I asked, is gun violence a major problem in this country? Do you still feel like it's a major problem in this country? I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on that. My man J. Voss said, fact of the matter is more people are killed by blunt force trauma. 100%. Jova, I've said this many times that more people are killed with blunt objects, fist, a bat, a hammer. I don't see people saying, you need background checks at Dick's Sporting Goods or at Home Depot, but whenever there is a gun-related death, all of a sudden we need to press for more gun control. Yes, CK Kevin. Facts. Pila, what's good? I don't think we've had you in the chat before. I want to say welcome. Yeah, 60%. 60% of gun deaths every year are self-inflicted via suicide. I think that's a situation too. Well, that part, I think everybody in the chat has this problem, Marcus. I think everybody in the chat has that problem. Christopher Lewis, excellent point. So we're going to get to that. And I'm going to leave this up here as kind of a reminder. Taddy Cop says 30 years in law enforcement has taught him that gun crimes involve stolen guns and not from law-abiding citizens. Agreed. Bougie Prepper, hey sis, how's it going? Ronald Woodman, mental health, we're going to get to that. I will also say, because of what David Lurch said, gun deaths don't even hit the top 10 in terms of annual deaths. Heart disease, number one killer, 680,000 deaths a year. Cancer, number two, 613,000 deaths a year. Unintentional injuries, accidents, 222,000 deaths a year. Stroke, 162,000 deaths a year. Chronic lower respiratory diseases like COPD, 143,000. Alzheimer's, 114,000. Diabetes, 95,000. Kidney disease, 55,000. Chronic liver disease, 52,000. COVID-19 and underlying causes, almost 50,000, basically. So gun deaths don't even crack the top 10, right? And homicides don't even crack the top 20. And so that's what I kind of want to because I think, yes, I'm for some common sense gun control, background checks, violent felon exclusion, elimination of fully automatic weapons and weapons of mass destruction. But those are already in place, right? Just as an example, so you have some kind of sense. Auto accidents to homicides are 3-1. Drug overdose deaths to homicide, almost 6-1. Accidental falls, almost 3-1. Flu and pneumonia related deaths, 2.5-1. So again, when we talk about like how big a problem are guns, I'm not saying I think they are a problem. I think if there are things that we can do to address them, then by all means. But I don't think any of the laws that are being proposed, that I hear being proposed, are solutions to gun violence. I will also say this, that the gun we hear about the most is assault weapons, weapons of war, right? We talked about the increase in mass shootings every year. So I've given you the gun stats. Those gun stats, those homicide stats include mass shootings. Now, here's what I don't think they give you. I think most of the time, hold on, and let me catch up real quick with the chat. Make sure I'm not mentioning too much. 100% CK Kevin. Dr. Skill, more every year. Agree. X Factor, frat. We're going to get to that too. Violence is a problem. Fair enough. Fair enough, Howard J. And so again, I'm talking about gun control here, not violence. That's probably a topic for another day. Floss and Farmer, what's good? Hypatia Stallings, what's good? I hope I didn't butcher your name, sis. So I'm specifically talking about gun control as a solution for gun violence. And I don't feel that I haven't heard any proposals that are going to address those 15,000 or so homicides that we get every year. What I tried, here's the other thing I think that is very interesting. A lot of times I hear this stat thrown out there a lot. The number one killer of children in our country is guns. Well, it's kind of disingenuous, right? Because most young people are healthy, right? When we look at the major causes of death in our country, heart disease, cancer, stroke, liver disease, Alzheimer's, diabetes, kidney disease, these are not things that are typically, that young people are typically afflicted with, right? So of course, if you eliminate all of the health reasons, then pretty much what you have left are accidents and things like that, right? I think though, what the media tries to portray is that there are 6, 7, 8-year-olds who are out here dying daily from gun violence. And I think that's a misinterpretation of the facts. Those numbers are skewed by teenagers primarily who are involved in gang violence. I bring that up because the definition, the federal definition, I believe it's the FBI, defines a mass shooting as any shooting where 4 or more people are injured or killed in a shooting incident. But I'm going to give you 2 different scenarios. Scenario number 1, 2 gang members walk out of a liquor store and are having a conversation. A rival gang sees them standing out in front of the liquor store. They circle back and they open fire, right? The guys who are standing in front of the liquor store also open fire. And so now you have a situation where 2 people are murdered. One of the guys in the car who started the shooting, one of the guys on the street corner who fired back, and one other person, one of the gang members was injured, and a random passerby was also injured. I don't think when we think of mass shooting, that's what we're thinking about. But that is the definition of mass shootings. And those kinds of shootings get thrown into the mass shooting definition to make it seem like the mass shootings are higher. Now, I think when we think of mass shootings, we think about some deranged lunatic who starts shooting people in a movie theater or at a school or in a concert or something like that. And I think that that's what we think, but those numbers are minuscule. The other thing that we hear about all the time is the AR-15, the weapon of war, and all of that dialogue, right? Well, so we already talked about the numbers, right? 340 million people are in the country. 3 million pass away every year. About 15,000 of those are homicides. Of those homicides, less than 3% are with AR-15s. Handguns are the weapon of choice for mass shooters, primarily because of the concealability, right? And so that's the other thing that I don't think people say, right? That's the other thing I don't think that people say. And I'll tell you what's even more interesting about the gun homicides that we do have in our country that I think really, really strike a chord. Agreed. No universal definition. I'm kind of giving you I think the FBI's definition of mass shooting, which is 4 or more killed or injured, right? But you're right, Joe Voss. Somebody who's being disingenuous can throw anything in that figure. What I was going to say is, here's what's interesting, right? If you take 55% of those homicides are kind of, concentrated into certain areas. And they're the areas that you would think of. They are in cities that are in inner cities where people live on top of one another, where there is lack of upward mobility, where wealth gap is widened, where there's lack of access to quality health care, lack of access to quality education. And when you have these kinds of circumstances, what happens? Crimes swell up, drug use swells up, gang violence swells up. And so if you took 55%, and these are highly concentrated communities, right? So we could take like 55, almost 60%, between 55 to 60% of all the homicides. And if we put them on a map, it would represent about 42 by 42 miles, which is almost the size of Rhode Island. So almost 60% of the gun deaths in our country take place in square footage that is equivalent to Rhode Island. That's how small or concentrated geographically that most of the gun violence in our country is. And so again, I say, how big a problem is it? Really? It's a problem, but how big a problem is it? And do what we hear from the media and politicians jive with kind of what the reality is? If it doesn't, and I don't think it is, I don't think that's an accident. I think it's intentional. I think when children are killed tragically, when innocents are killed tragically, when communities are struck that are not accustomed to this kind of violence, I think it hits people differently. And then you get into the emotional side of it. And I do want to get into the emotional side in a moment. I'm going to bring you guys back into the conversation. But I just want to say this. When it comes, I don't think that we have I think gun violence and all violence is a problem. I don't think we have a big gun violence problem in this country. What I think we have in this country is a mental health problem. What I think we have in this country is an affordable and quality education problem. What I think we have in this country is a growing disparity in wealth and a decrease in the middle class. What I think we have in this country is an affordable healthcare problem. And when you have these kinds of problems, it leads to drugs, crime, suicide, and violence. And if you want to address the gun violence problem, these are the things that I feel need to be addressed. Trying to throw another gun control bill onto the fire is going to do nothing. It's just putting lipstick on the pig. It's not going to curb the 15,000 or so gun deaths that we have every year. We had an assault weapon ban previously, right? And a lot of people tout, when we had that gun ban, the assault weapon ban, deaths from assault weapons went down, and that's true. But what happened is handgun deaths went up correspondingly. So there really was no change, which is why the assault weapon ban was not renewed, because a common sense approach showed that it was not effective. Again, this is not what you hear when you hear pro-gun control advocates talk. So that's kind of my thesis. Now that I've given you guys the numbers, the facts, I want to talk to you guys about the emotional side of it, because that caught me off guard. When I did this podcast with my fraternity brothers, they didn't hit me with the effectiveness argument. That's what a lot of politicians do. Let us pass this gun control bill because it's going to curb violence, when we know that that doesn't work. They hit me with, people have kids and all of them are fathers. And I know I've got a lot of fathers in my live now. And I know a lot of you worry every day when you send your kids off to school. And so some of this is emotional, right? So I want to ask you guys, if we all agree that some level of gun control is acceptable, background checks and the like, right? We were pretty much in lockstep with that. And we all pretty much agree that additional gun control beyond the thousands of laws that are already on the books probably is not going to do anything. And in fact, some of those laws can be rolled back because they're not doing anything now to curb violence. If we agree with that, how would you guys deal with the emotional aspect that people go through when they see loss of life, when it's at our schools, when it's in movie theaters, when it's at concerts, when it's at generally places that we expect a certain level of safety? If we agree that gun control isn't the answer, how do you have that conversation with people who are emotionally fired up about it, right? I think that is the question. I had a friend who lost, a friend of a friend who lost their child in a school shooting. How do you tell them that gun control doesn't work, or that we shouldn't have gun control? How do you address that with them? I honestly don't know. Certainly you can give them the statistics and everything that I just gave you guys, but how do you address a mom who lost their child to gun violence? I'd like to hear your thoughts about that. Well, facts. Facts, Jason. Facts. They're fine with guns when they're the ones selling them, right? They're fine with guns when they're the ones selling them. Stephen Barnes, prohibition didn't work. Facts. Facts. I agree. There isn't one fix. And this is my issue with the politicians and the media. The media is incented. What's that phrase they use in media, in the news? If it bleeds, it leads. So the media is there to get clicks. They're there to get views. They are there to get ratings. So they want to escalate everything and make everything seem bigger so they can get more eyes. Politicians want to be reelected and they want to raise money for their campaigns. So they're incented to get up and have fire and brimstone speeches about the tragedies of gun violence. I think the bigger issue is that none of them have any real solutions for the underlying causes of gun violence, which again, in my opinion, are mental health issues, education issues, lack of opportunity, and things like that that exist in a lot of these communities, which then result in violence. Uh, David, I like that. I like that. I like that. I think there's a lot to be said. And I think this too. Look, if you know people, I think part of the onus is on us to demystify guns. That's why when my fraternity brothers who have never really shot a gun before were like, can you take us out to shoot? Absolutely. Absolutely, I can. Because one of the things that I want to do is demystify guns, right? I want to not only give them information, I want to give them experience. You know, it is very, I think, weird when we demonize the machine and not the people. But we do that with guns, but we don't do that with other things. More people die. I want to say the ratio is something like 3-1, die from drunk drivers than guns every year. But I don't hear people saying, oh, you have to pass a background check or something like that. Or we want you, for your car to start, we want you to blow in it to ensure that you haven't been drinking. I don't hear these kind of initiatives with other things. You know, people plow into to innocent people either intentionally or because they're drunk, and I don't hear an outcry about SUV control. So I don't know, like, but I do think to the extent that we take our time, I think a lot of pro-gun people hear these anti-gun arguments and we dismiss them out of hat and ignore them instead of taking a few minutes to try to educate, instead of taking a few minutes to provide some context, instead of taking that person in and taking them to shoot a firearm so they aren't uh so they don't feel kind of so they can see that it's not the device, it's the individual. One of the funny things that came out of me taking my fraternity brothers out to shoot. So when I took them out to shoot, I kind of tried to give them a variety. So I brought a couple of 2011s for them to shoot. I brought out a Glock for them to shoot, and I brought an AR-15 out for them to shoot. Now, the 2011s were obviously the most impressive guns, but I don't think the general public even know what a 2011 or a 1911 double stack or a 1911 is, right? If you're not a gun guy, but everybody knows what a Glock is. Everybody knows what an AR-15 is because these are the guns that are constantly in the media. And so one of my fraternity brothers is a highly respected educator, UCLA undergrad, Brown University graduate, master's degree graduate, been an educator for decades and decades, right? Highly respected, right? And he's known the person I'm about to tell you about for a very long time. So not only is he highly credentialed and respected, he has a personal relationship. Mr. Professional, salute. He has a relationship with this person. When he told this female that he shot a Glock and an AR-15, he said she drew back. She shuddered. She was physically affected by that information, looked at him differently, even though she knows him well, right? And so I think it's that visceral kind of reaction that people have to have with guns that I think we need to address. CK, I know, bro. Look, I didn't hit him with a Venom or an Erebus or a Hayes or an Infinity. I didn't do that to him. I took one of my staccato. I took my staccato P. I took my staccato P. I took my G Wagon, which is my Glock 34, and I took an AR-15, and I forget the other 2011. But I started them out at the lower end of the 2011 game. Really, Steven? Well, Steven, you obviously don't live in California, my man, because they're all over the place. I think there are a lot of people who would be perfectly fine with outlawing guns altogether, but it's ridiculous, in my opinion, because it's 400 million guns in the country. What are people going to do? Go door to door? Yeah, that makes sense. What are people going to do? Go door to door? No, you can't go door to door and collect. Excuse me, got the hiccups. Hold on. Yeah, you're not going to go door to door and collect 400 million firearms. So that's not even a thing. So the question is, and we have the Second Amendment. Absent the Second Amendment being eliminated, I don't know what you do about that. So I don't think disarming the nation is an option. So again, I put out to you guys, okay, Michael Monroe is in California. Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of people out here that would be like 100% we need more gun control. But I also think, look, fam, before I was educated on gun laws, before I was educated on gun control, I probably would have echoed the sentiments of a lot of these people because you don't know what you don't know. If you hear the politician that you vote for and the media outlet that you watch sit up there and say we need more gun control, and then you see them advertising all, 80% of the gun violence that takes place in our country, even though as a percentage, it's a small percentage, you would think that we have an overwhelming gun control problem in this country, that we have overwhelming gun violence problem in this country. And so I think a lot of people have been brainwashed by politicians. They have been brainwashed by the media. And I think they're too busy raising families, going to work every day and doing the things that they need to do to research whether or not they're getting the whole story. I think we rely far too heavily on media or algorithms and our politicians to provide us information. And I think that's true. This is why people ask me, well, what media do you watch? I say all of it. I want to know what's being said on MSNBC. I want to know what's being said on CNN. I want to know what's being said on Fox News. I want to know what conservatives are saying. I want to know what liberals are saying. I want to know what the sensible middle is saying. And once I have all the information, then I formulate an opinion. But I don't think that is the way that the majority of our country operates. 100%. I agree 100%. I don't think, look, if there were additional gun laws on the book, I don't think the kid that assassinated Charlie Kirk would have been like, you know what? I was going to go down here and start shooting up this event, but because there are gun control laws, I'm not going to do it. No. Oh, there, pistol politics. What's good, fam? Hey, let me say this. If you guys aren't following my guy, Pistol Politics, make sure you check him out. He does a lot of live streams, does a lot of stuff. Check out his channel and be supportive of the people that support us. Welcome in, fam. Welcome in. So, yeah, I was saying that I don't think there are laws on our books now that say that murder is a no-go. And the penalties for murder are high. What I'm saying? They're high. Life in prison, the death penalty in some states, right? It's not a deterrent for people who are evil or sick or who want to cause mayhem. Those things do not deter people from doing so. So one other gun law is not going to curb that either. Agree, Jova. Agree. And Floss and Farmer, agree. That part. That part. Ronald Woodman, criminals are not attorneys. Well, now there are some attorneys that are criminals, but criminals are not attorneys, right? Facts. Facts. That's that part. That part. That is the definition of criminality, is that people who are okay with breaking the laws. My dad has this expression, and I encourage all of you guys to adopt it and use it. And that expression is you can't legislate crazy and criminals. Crazy is going to do what crazy does, and criminals are going to do what criminals do, right? And no amount of legislation is going to impact crazies or criminals. And so that's how I kind of look at it. But I am sympathetic. My heart goes out to, and I have been affected. You know, friends have found death at their doorstops at gun violence. So I take it seriously as anyone. But what I would say is that gun control is not the answer. That part. Can't legislate humanity. Yes. Yes. I feel like a lot of these politicians are proponents of these gun measures because they want to make people feel good. And this is kind of why I brought the facts over feelings thing. They want to make people feel safe. They want to make people feel good. But it's all, hey sis, it's all a charade in my book. Because you put the gun law on the books and people feel good today until the next shooting take place, and they tell you, oh, you know what we need? We need more. But you said the last law was what we needed. Now you're saying we need this law. And then when some mass shooting happens after that, you're going to say, oh, we need another law. No. Gun laws are not the answer. You have to address the underlying issues. And that will help some, but it's never going to eliminate everything, right? It's never going to eliminate all tragedies. Unfortunately, that's just life. I think that's right. I think that's right. And again, I think without context, how many people we have? So we have about, let's say we got about 50 people watching now, right? If I tell somebody that I did a survey and 100% of the people said there should be no gun laws whatsoever, that sounds like something until I tell you I only asked 5 people. Right? That's the problem. You can make numbers seem any kind of way. Agree. Well, and that's the other thing. What I didn't give you guys, and we'll do that at another time, I didn't give you guys, I gave you the number of homicides, but I want to say, and don't hold me to this one because I haven't looked at it in a while, but I want to say that the potential gun violence that is thwarted by good guys who have firearms is almost 2 or 3 to 1 of gun violence. And so there's that part. And you never hear that in the media. I never, ever hear that in political spaces. That part too. That part too. And here's the thing, CK Kevin. Here's the thing. By increasing the cost for concealed carry permits, by increasing these, adding these excise taxes on firearms and um, on ammunition and all these other taxes that they try to implement, right? Who are the people that are affected? The people who are in the upper middle class and the top 10% or whatever, they don't care. They can afford whatever, right? It's the people in the low income communities who need these protections more than anybody else. Those are the ones that are affected, right? They want to take guns out of the hands of the people that need it the most. And that's another issue that I have with these politicians. Pack the guy Reed, what's good, my guy, in the building. And so, look, fam, I don't have any answers, but I do think I understand the problem. And I think understanding the problem is the start. So what I would kind of take away from what I'm saying now is that gun control is not solution. There are thousands of gun laws on the books already, and those regulate gun violence as good as can be expected. We need to address the underlying problems where violence itself permeates in our country, which is mental health, which is lack of access to quality health care, lack of access to quality education, lack of access to upward mobility and opportunity. I think if we address those things, the 15,000 or so homicides that we have as a result of guns every year will go down. They'll never be eliminated because it's always going to be evil, always going to be people who want to do bad, always people who mean to do harm. And when those people are motivated, there's nothing to do about that. So that's what I would say about gun control. Hold on. Sex bomb, salute. If you had to choose one, RC9 or the Miller Precision, it's a tough call, my man. I think those are great guns. Look, the Miller Precision is ported and comped. It's a hybrid gun. It's special. But having shot it and having shot the RC9 Mod 2, I would tell you that the shooting experience itself is not very different. And I think the manufacturing quality of the RC9 is a little bit better than the Miller Precision. But I think at the price point to be able to have a hybrid gun for 4,500 or somewhere in there, I think that's a great opportunity. All right. Look, fam, we're going to be having some awesome. I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. We'll do this, some non-gun talk from time to time when we feel like it's appropriate. We've got a lot of great content coming to the channel. There's a lot of crazy guns that I have coming into the collection over the next 6 months. It's going to be insane. It's going to be insane. A lot coming from some of your favorite gun manufacturers. A lot of gun reviews, a lot of comparisons are going to be coming up. As a matter of fact, tomorrow, it should be premiering now. It should be showing up as a premiere now, but tomorrow we're going to be comparing the ported Cardinal Arms G2, the Vanta 9, and the Apollo. So a lot of people have been begging me for that video And so that's dropping tomorrow morning. Let's get into the giveaway. So again, couple of giveaways. So hold on, let me share my screen. Well, first, we're going to be giving away the CV Life chest rig. It's a chest rig that you can wear around you. It'll set up like this. If you're somebody that walks, your dog in the morning or goes for walks, somebody that jogs, somebody that hikes, this is a great option. So you have your hands free, but you still have access to your phone, your wallet, your keys, your firearms. So CV Life sent this out. That's going to be the video on reviews on this is going to be dropping soon. I'm going to give this away to a lucky participant in the live tonight. You do not have to be a member to participate. Let me do a little share screen action. If you guys will put hashtag CV Life into the chat, you will win this the chest rig I just showed you, along with the 2A NLA patch and a 2A NLA keychain. Ordered the Dark Force Reaper at Covert last week. Any ideas on the shipping? I don't. It was like 30 to 90 days. It could be sooner, but ask Covert. They should be able to tell you. Just give them a ring. Oscar, salute. Hi, guy. If I haven't said what's up, salute. Willie, my man, salute. A couple of y'all I might have missed. But let's drop that in the chat. And then the member giveaway is a nice one. It's a nice one also. Make sure you guys go to 2anla.com. Here, while you guys are doing that, let me pull up this. All right, make sure you guys do hashtag CV Life. We'll come back to that in a minute, just real quick. I want to share the website with you. All right, fam. So if you go to 2anla.com, on the cover page, you will see free giveaway and contest. Put your name, email, and your YouTube or Instagram handle in there, and you will automatically get entered into the contest for the firearm that I think is going to drop next month. So make sure you do that to get a free giveaway. Jada Budget Gunfire, salute. Oh, yeah. AJ, it's hashtag CV Life. V is in Victor, Life. Hit that again before I select go time. And y'all need to be careful because Jay is one of, quiet as kept, Jay is one of the most winningest dudes out here in these YouTube streets. He's won multiple contests on my channel and other channels. Okay, Greg. Greg is saying he had the first Canik combat. Definitely had a break-in period. Took him about 300 rounds. Not surprising. Not surprising at all. All right, look, fam. Let's not mess around with it. Let's do it expeditiously. Let's get it rolling. Let's get it rolling. STD. STD. STD is another guy that has won multiple times on this channel. Congrats to my man STD. Hey fam, I think I got your address information. Still, if I don't, I'll hit you up on socials to get it. Or if you want to just email it to me real quick so it's at the top of my email and I can find it, I will get out your bag ASAP. All right, all right, all right. Now, in addition to another patch and keychain, I'm going to be giving away this Reptilla pistol grip that has been redone. Y'all can see that has been redone by Clutch, stippled and Cerakoted fam. You talk about an accent piece to really step up your AR-15 into something different. Clutch does amazing work. I don't have any relationship with Clutch or anything like that, so this is not about pubbing them up. I like what I like, and so I thought this would make an outstanding giveaway for the channel. Michael Monroe said, "Man, I saw, man, you was close, Mike. You were close." All right, so this is our next one, and this is going to be a member giveaway. So let me bring that up. All right, let me say this, fam. If you guys aren't members, y'all are tripping. Membership is only $2.99 a month. That is probably the best way to support the channel. 100% of whatever I get goes right back into the channel. I don't use anything for me personally. And you get content that I don't release to other people. You can get some content sooner than other people. In addition to that, I do bi-weekly giveaways. Every live, I tend to do at least one, sometimes two giveaways. And the nicer giveaways are always to members. And so, again, we give away weapon lights. We give away optics. We give away firearms. We give away nice bags. We give away safes. So, look, if I think that the value is there are tons of people in this chat who have won on my channel, many people who have won multiple times. So make sure you're a member, fam. All right, let's get this wheel going. Let's shuffle it up, mix it up. Let's go. Oh, TBG up. Oh. Philly Slow. Look, Philly Slow won last time and didn't claim his prize. I have not seen him in the live tonight. Look, Philly, you lost out on the last one because you missed the 2 weeks. But look, hit me up. Hit me up. You got until the next live 2 weeks from now to hit me up with your address and everything so you can claim your prize. If you guys know Philly Slow, make sure you hit him up and tell him he won on the channel, and to email me at 2anla@gmail.com, 2 spelled out, TWO. Yes, sir, Michael Monroe, giving away firearms. We got an AR-9 that we're giving away probably in October, and before the end of the year, I'm giving away a 2011. I already gave away a rifle earlier in the year, and may have a couple surprise giveaways. So stay tuned, fam. Stay tuned. Matt from Florida, salute. All right, fam, we coming up on 6:30. We've been out at about an hour and a half. Look, I appreciate everybody stopping through. I appreciate all the support. If you guys don't follow me on other socials, make sure you're following me on Instagram. I'm a good follow on Instagram because a lot of stuff that ultimately ends up on the channel shows up on Instagram first. All like the hot new purchases, the hot new bills, I usually post on Instagram first. So if you're not following me on Instagram, make sure you follow me there. I've recently started posting on Reddit, so make sure you follow me on Reddit. I've only been on Reddit less than 2 months and I have well over 1 million views on Reddit. So a lot of picture content that really isn't featured on like Instagram and YouTube, I put on Reddit. So I'm a good follow there as well. All right. That's it, fam. Until next time, as always, I want you guys to take care of one another and peace.